Yeah, absolutely. So airlines haven't really been flying to and from China that much over the past 2 to 3 years because demand has been constrained. We've had tests, we've had travel bans. It's been very hard for passengers to travel to and from the country. So anything there's just pure upside here. As we start to restore traffic as demand comes back, it adds additional revenue streams to those airlines that do tend to have more Chinese traffic.
Alexander, this requirement or the recommendation rather from Europe for the negative test for Chinese travellers, what does that mean? We've lived through a whole era where there have been rules around testing and mask wearing. What could this mean for Europe?
So I'll take this from the airline perspective. Airlines haven't been flying anyone to and from China. They will put flights on as long as they're seeing the bookings flow in, as long as they're seeing the revenue come in, as long as people are actually paying for seats on those planes, they will put more planes in the air on those routes. If that slows down because test restrictions are too onerous, because people are worried they're not going to be able to get into Europe or back home again, then airlines simply won't put that capacity on. There's high demand on a number of international routes. The North American route was extremely strong this summer. South America is coming back. Africa's been phenomenally strong. There are other places to put those planes. China adds another potential stream of revenue and just more demand into the system, but only where that demand is there are airlines going to be putting those planes in the sky.
Alexander, good morning. I've got the most basic question in the world for you today. Which airlines are the best in sector as far as you're concerned? Which ones should we avoid?
As it relates to China or just in general?
Oh, well, I'm thinking about the ones available to our viewers. So basically the listed companies, if they're Chinese, fine. If they're listed in Europe or US or elsewhere, fine. Whichever ones you think.
Yeah, I think the ultra low cost carrier space is probably the best place to be in Europe. We saw Ryanair raise guidance last night. New midpoint is about 15% ahead of current consensus for the year ending March 2023. Wizz should be similarly strong. I think we've probably got a bit of down trading going on here in Europe, whereby customers are switching towards lower fares to cheaper destinations, using that to satisfy their travel needs. So ultra low cost carriers, the two big ones in Europe, feel like quite a good place to be.
And yet, the two big problems for them and everyone else has been the two enormous cost increases. One in energy, i.e. jet fuel, the other in staff and the availability of staff, having made a bit of a mess of it in some cases, not all, in some cases, during COVID as well. Have they solved both of those key issues?
I mean, demand is really strong. Fares look really high. We're backing out what Ryanair guided to last night. You're looking at unit revenues about 20% ahead of pre-pandemic. So they're passing on the fuel costs and more, and customers are still willing to buy the tickets. That ultimately is what's going to matter. Yes, costs are higher, revenues need to be higher, and as long as you're still getting the volume demand, everything can sort of work out.